last time, all right, fine. It's small, but I can see you. And we are going to talk about
Yay.
the Apology Project. This was so good.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that.
I wrote in my review, it sounded interesting. I didn't know what to expect. There's so much to it in terms of the subject matter, but also it's fun and easy to read. So congratulations that you did.
Oh, thank you.
So
I like humor.
Yeah. Yes, but it's hard. I mean, the book deals with sexism and sexual harassment and all those things, and we'll get into that, but also to have it readable and not heavy-handed, pretty cool. So
thank you.
What made you write it?
I think it was COVID. To a certain extent. I wrote romance for a long time. I have a lot of books under a pen name. I didn't feel very sexy. COVID quarantine didn't make me want to write anything romantic. And I was kind of going through, there was a lot. We all went through a lot, right? Like I have 3 kids, being at home with them, trying to work, write. And it was just like these expectations that we have on ourselves and that people have on us as women. I don't know. It just kind of came out of that. And it was very cathartic, and I loved it. I thought it was the most me book I've written. Like I felt like I was writing about myself in a more exaggerated fashion, but I've always done employment law. So everything that I have said, and some reviews have said things like how exaggerated those things don't happen. Those things happen every single day.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting because you just said you loved writing this book. The books that I've been reading that I love and really connect to, the authors also have this relationship with the book. Like they're just so excited. They wrote it, and at the same time, they can appreciate what it is and be excited about what it is. And it sounds like that's what happened with this one.
Yes, absolutely. It was so different than anything else I've written. And it was very relatable to me. And I was so excited. It was so different from anything I had ever written. And I just loved it. I loved it. And I mean, even if no one ever picked it up, I was happy with it.
And that's the key.
Yeah.
That's the key. I think when people do that, when they write a book that is authentic to what they want to say, it ends up being successful versus the other way around, and you're trying to write it, for your audience. So
for sure. And you're not contractually obligated or anything to write. You're just writing it out of from the heart, which is what this book was about.
Nice. So Amelia doesn't. When we meet her, she doesn't have any friends. She's known as like a bit of a hard ass at her law firm.
Right.
But she's put as lead on a sexual harassment case where she's representing the defendant.
Mm-hmm.
And the partners are being just as sexist and everything else when they're talking to you about how they want this case to be prosecuted.
Right.
And she draws the line.
Right.
Now, that's where she draws the line. But what was Amelia like before she started going on this? She's turned into this really hard person, and then she cracks at this moment. Tell us about before.
I think that before she was, I think she was always a driven person. She wanted, she was always driven, but also I think that in our 20s, we have like this picture of like, what is all, we're going to have it all. So she was driven. She wanted to accomplish X, Y, and Z. And then now she's kind of accomplished everything she set out to accomplish. So I think that driven personality was there, and it kind of, what's the word? Kind of trumped. I don't like that particular word, but it kind of trumped. It kind of trumped her friendships, her relationships.
Meeting now.
I couldn't think of the word, just the only one that came up. But I think that that's what happened. She was so focused or yeah, on just on becoming this, partner in this law firm, that she lost sight of, her relationships. And I can relate to that. I mean, I think that because I am an attorney, when I decided I wanted to be an attorney, I went to school, I studied, and it was almost like one-minded. This is like the goal. So we're very, very driven, and very like single-mindedly focused on these things. And then maybe we didn't, I know I didn't nurture some relationships because there's so much one person can do. But I think you change as a person through the years, through the decades, and what is all kind of changes as you get a little older. And I think that's what happened. I think she found herself at the end. That's the person she wants to be. And maybe that's the person she was before, but she didn't really get a chance to express that because she was always so, I gotta work.
So it happened by default, not by choice.
100%. Yeah.
Just being so busy and choosing a career that requires all much of you all the time.
Yeah.
Well, you got that message across that she all of a sudden she screeches to a halt because now she's fired from the firm, and she hasn't even had a chance to look at who she is and what her life looks like.
For sure. And I think that COVID did that to a lot of us. It kind of put a stop to everything, like a screeching halt, because it was from one day to the next. And it made you think, wait, whoa, what have I been working so hard for? What's really important? What do I do with myself now? Because a lot of people lost their jobs, like, what do you do? Who are you without your job? Are you important without your job? Because some people's identity is so, intertwined with their job. So I think that that's what it did. It kind of like, you have had to stop and think like, wow, there has to be more to life than just work. And I think that's where she found herself.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Oh, okay. So I know what I want to talk about. You were talking about being at a law firm. It sounds like you were kind of saying like, sexism and sexual harassment is pretty much par for the course. And I'm older. I'm going to turn 50 in a couple of months. And so like, I remember so much sexism everywhere. And you just kind of, you just
dealt with it, right?
You just thought you never even like, you had to deal with it.
I know.
You couldn't like change everything. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I think that you and I mean, I'm in my 40s, and I think we're older, so we remember how it was, right? Not that we weren't living in the time of Mad Men. It wasn't that bad, but it was still there. And I think that when I started practicing law, I saw it. I remember being in a courtroom, and I remember one of my first cases, opposing counsel telling me something super sexist, really nasty. But I'm 25. What am I going to do? You just kind of I'm not going to sit there and cry or really complain, because I'm just trying to make myself a name for myself. So I don't want to also make waves. Right. So I think that our generation, we just kind of like, it's not that we were okay with it, because I don't think you were okay with it, and neither was I, but we kind of it just was there. We dealt with it. We moved on. We didn't complain. Or maybe we did, but maybe in private. And I think the younger generation, which is what I see a lot of, which I commend them, they're very vocal. I mean, they're vocal about everything, maybe more than they need to be, but they're very vocal. And I think that they have made a lot of changes. But I will tell you, it's still a man's world. I mean, I still practice law, and I will tell you, during COVID, my law practice went through I was so busy because men did not want to hire women during COVID, because we were at home homeschooling. So hiring women every time there was a quarantine scare, or every time somebody had to go home, who were the ones going home? It was their women staff.
Jesus.
So yeah, so I got a lot of questions. Me, a woman, I'm like, I can't even believe you would ask this. Do I still have to hire women? I'm like, yes, you have to hire women. What is wrong with you? But I think we went back in time. I mean, it was crazy. So that it was such a learning experience for me. Not a great one always. It was frustrating.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still there. Whoever says there's no sexism anymore they're wrong.
They're wrong about a lot of isms.
A lot of them. There's a lot of isms out there.
There's a lot of isms that are, yeah, it's fine. It's finding that balance with your goals individually and what you want in your life. But then by saying nothing, we're also participating. So
it's hard.
Right thing with all of that is really, it's a tricky thing.
And you don't really, I mean, do you really want to be, and we should be, but we don't really want to be the one that makes waves if we're successful. Kind of want somebody else to do it, but then we're being complicit in it. So it's hard. It's not easy.
You have to, what I've been doing in lots of little decisions is to say, well, one solution doesn't fit all.
Correct.
But maybe in this situation, I am saying something. And maybe in this one, I'm like, not.
You have to pick your battles, right? Pick your battles. Yes.
Exactly. And but also asking yourself those questions, not just never saying anything, just, being sensitive to that. So I'm going to switch gears.
Sure.
You write romance as Sydney Halston?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And there is a romance in the Apology Project with John Ellis, who is taking over Amelia's position at the firm. How did you navigate that? How were you able to have them have a romance without having been,
Yeah, that was hard. Right. That was probably one of the harder things in the book. And actually my editor and I went back and forth a lot on that because it's hard. I mean, we could read that book and say, I hate him. He's okay with the sexism, but he's not okay with it. And it's not his battle either, even though I don't think he was complicit either. He wasn't like okay with it, but I had to make that division. And also I think the fact that he's older, she's older. I think it's different when you're a little older because he's more set in his ways and he's not going to put up with BS from his partners or from her. So it was hard. It was and there were a lot of versions of that, by the way, because it was, I had written it and then I'm like, man, I kind of don't like him because if she's so miserable in her job, I mean, her life changed because of this job. Now he has it. How is she going to be okay with that? So that wasn't easy, but I think we navigated in a way where we still like their relationship, but I think they needed to part ways for a little bit. But it wasn't easy. It was probably the hardest thing in the book for me to write.
Wow. So genres. And then, so we haven't even talked about the name, the Apology Project. So Amelia gets fired. Her sister convinces her to have this 40th birthday party. Nobody but her family comes, and John, the lawyer, who just came because he thought other people from the
free food.
And she makes this list of people to apologize for, but then she forgets, but then she ends up doing it a little bit. And so it got me thinking about apologizing and the people who are on your list. And I know the background of that concept, but why don't you share with our listeners
sure
about the Apology Project?
Yeah. So she like you said, she finds herself really lonely, right? Nobody's at her party. She's at this crossroads. She has no friends. And she's kind of been labeled kind of the bitch, she's the one in the firm that nobody likes. And, it maybe didn't bother her too much because she was so busy with other things, but now she's kind of stepped back and she's like, I don't want to be this person. And we have a right to change. We have a right to change ourselves, right? Or self-evaluate and say, okay, I don't like this about me. And that's kind of where she found herself. And she starts writing a list. She had one too many drinks, of people that, at some point meant something to her, or maybe she treated them unfairly. And of course, there are some that are more important than others. And, I think that is part of the journey of what really makes you happy. I mean, do you need to have 1,000 Facebook friends? Are those really your friends, or those are just acquaintances? And some people, you just grow apart. And I think that's something that comes with age. You just grow apart, and no amount of apologizing is going to change that, because you're just not in the same place anymore. And I think she finds that through her journey, that she doesn't need thousands of people in her life. She needs just quality people that really speak to her, and that's kind of where the Apology Project came from.
Right. And speaking of people in her life, her father's adopted, and her mom has them do a 23andMe test, and she discovers that she has Cuban origins. And I feel like you used that relationship. Is it Rosa that she communicates?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That relationship with Rosa, who is very expressive and friendly and open and loving and all that, that kind of becomes something that it's almost like it's a lifeline for Amelia to branch out a little bit. And what made you, I know you're of Cuban heritage.
Yeah.
What made you want to include that element of the book?
I wanted to bring something of my heritage into the book. I wanted somehow for there to be something Cuban. I didn't know what, but either she was Cuban or somehow there was something there, just because I want to add that flavor. And I do think that just culturally, we are, because my family is Cuban. I've never been to Cuba, but my family is Cuban. I think culturally, it's we're driven, but we're not very, we don't tend to apologize. We tend to be, like, if you like it or leave it type of thing, and I think that's kind of like where she, and it also, the Cuban, that patriarchy and the machismo thing is there. So I think that bringing that element in of just showing, okay, this is not just me as a lawyer in Chicago. This is really like globally, men dominate a lot of professions, even in Cuba, even the situation going on with her family there. It's not just here. And, people cope with it in different ways. And I just wanted to show, like, culturally how it's, they cope with it over there, or, just show, like, also your problems here are so little insignificant compared to these things. So I just wanted to bring a little flavor of that. And actually my next book has more of Cuba in it. I enjoy writing it.
And your next book is a romance, or it's another?
It's not romance.
I'm not sure do you know what category? What shelf?
It's women's fiction.
Women's fiction.
Yeah. So no, the next one is women's fiction too.
I would like everyone to read it. Thank you very much.
It could be men's fiction. It's called Happy-ish, and I put a little bit more Cuban elements in it because I like writing it. I just I don't know. It's in me to write more of that.
Good.
Yeah.
And okay. And another question I had is, in your bio, I wasn't sure. Have you never stopped working as?
I've never stopped working, okay. And I will tell you, I get asked this a lot. Why don't you just stop working and write? I can't just sit and write. I don't write in a linear fashion. Okay. Like I get inspired and I might write like a scene. So if I didn't work, it's not like I would be sitting there typing all day. And also I really like my job, and I don't work full time anymore. I have the luxury of kind of like Amelia, I can pick what I want to do. And, but I enjoy it, and it gives me a lot of inspiration for my books. So I don't see myself not writing. I see myself always having these two jobs because I love writing. I love my job. So, and I have the luxury
I have 3 or 4 things, and I feel like I do better when I'm doing all of them.
Right. I think it's just like maybe a personality type trait that we have.
Well, I mean, I think that's also part of being a writer though, too,
Yeah.
is you're putting, you're kind of putting on different hats. I don't
Yes.
know. It's
No, I agree. I agree.
your life too. You're kind of
Yeah.
acting almost, I guess. I don't know.
100%. I agree with you 100%. I know a lot of writers. Some of my best friends are writers, and it's their 9 to 5 job, and they're very structured the same way I'm not
No.
that person.
No, I know people who do that too. And obviously everyone's different.
Yeah.
I am, so that's the word. Oh, so another thing, going back to what you do now, you did say that you do consulting for companies for sexism, harassment, and discrimination. How does that work? What do you do with that?
That's what I really do right now. Even though I practice law, I really mostly do consulting. So, and I represent the big bad employers, but to my defense, really, they call us before they have problems. And it's really issues of, I do a lot of investigations. So if an employer has a complaint of harassment, or they want to avoid it, or they see something coming, they'll bring me in or where I work, and we kind of do an investigation. Is it really harassment? What's going on? Do we need to do some training? So every day it's something different, and it's all related to harassment and discrimination. It's really interesting. I love it. And I do feel like I make a difference, because I can actually talk to a person.
Yeah.
I actually can talk to a man and say, hey, what you're doing is wrong. I mean, what are you thinking? But I do see it every single day. So when people tell me, or when I get reviews that say this is BS, this doesn't happen anymore, I'm like, man, this happens every day. Every single day.
I think with all of the isms, I think we think that we should be beyond it, but I think we have to be honest that we aren't. And just by saying, oh no, it's so much, it's fine or whatever, that's not really that the answer that's gonna get us anywhere.
For sure.
So that was my question though, and it sounds like you were saying it, is that by being on the inside, you're able to educate a little bit too.
Oh, well, and I think I would say that I spend about 90% of my time at work doing trainings. So I do in the investigation, but it's mostly training staff on people believe it or not, people don't actually know what they can do and cannot do. You would think that they know, but they don't. So educating them, letting them know, listen, this is not right. Staring at someone just because you're not touching them, but like oogling, that's not right. And you'd be surprised how many people say, but I'm not touching them. Yeah, but it's uncomfortable. So I do those trainings all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
It is uncomfortable.
I'm like, how do you not know that that's uncomfortable?
Yeah, it is uncomfortable.
You don't have to grab me for me to feel uncomfortable.
You just gotta, anyway.
Yeah. Or innuendos, just because you didn't say the word doesn't mean it's wrong.
I think that's everything. Is there anything you want to say about your experience?
No, I really appreciate you giving me the time. I'm so happy you read the book and enjoyed it. And I'm really proud that it's so relatable to so many people. I think that's the thing I've enjoyed the most. I think as an author, what you want people to really, to relate to your characters. And I think that Amelia is very relatable. Actually, I never expected to have such a good amount of feedback on that. So I appreciate your time.
I really enjoyed it. So I'm really happy to recommend it. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Bye, Jeanette.
Bye.